Welcome, everyone. How is it going? A surprise Monday live stream with a friend of the show, Mr. Emmet Peppers. Thank you for joining us, Emmet. How's it going?
Going well, Yashu. The market's not going so well. Other than the market continuing to be volatile and Tesla, investors are hurting. We're all butt hurt right now, and
Yeah,
it's been brutal for the markets. Other than all that, I'm doing well. Yeah, but
good.
that's not fun, obviously. When every day if you and I we watch the markets every day, we're not like short term traders, but it's we pay close attention to our biggest holdings, Tesla, for example, and it's tough to see the volatility. Yeah.
I mean, eventually short terms add up into long terms, and that's kind of where we are. I mean, the medium term has seemed like super weak. First, it was macro, and last night
Yeah.
I tweeted out, I said, the Asian markets were up substantially last night. Like tech Asian stocks were up, like the index, the Hang Index was up like 8%. I
Yeah.
retweeted. I said, this is great. Let's rally. And then, seemingly like 20 minutes after I fell asleep, there was a Reuters report, which I'm not even going to bother pulling up, but I'll get into it here in a second,
Yeah.
saying, and this is, I think, the reason why Tesla is down 6.5% as we talk right now, that Tesla Giga Shanghai will be cutting production by 20% on the Model Ys in December. Did you have a
Yeah.
chance to read about that at all and give any context?
Yeah, I heard Rob Maurer's Tesla Daily. He kind of referenced that rumor initially from a source he has in on Friday, his Friday report. So I was like, oh, this is not good. But I think he was referencing that it wouldn't be announced until like a week or two from now or something like that. But then I
Right.
guess Reuters and other news sources caught wind of the source or whatnot and reported something similar, last night. And I think that's a big part of the hit to Tesla stock price this morning. I think if that report didn't happen, what are we? The Nasdaq is down
2%.
2%. Yeah, Tesla is down 6.5%. And so I think Tesla might be down 3%, let's say, instead of six and a
Yeah.
half percent, something like that.
Yeah.
If this report didn't come true, or maybe Tesla would be flat based on the big news of the 100,000, total
Yeah.
wholesale number for November. It's possible Tesla will be flat or even slightly up.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I always try to think like parallel universes. Like if there's another universe where that everything is the same except that one thing, what would be happen? What would we see? And
Right.
it's
I
hard to
agree.
know. Yeah.
I think 3-ish% sounds right, 3 or 4%.
Yeah.
So it's seemingly like this story has about a 2 or 3% delta past what's kind of normal.
Mhm.
And that report that you're talking about with the record deliveries, I just pulled it up from Sawyer, saying Tesla China says their Giga Shanghai factory delivered over 100,000 vehicles, 200 over, in November, hitting an all-time monthly high. In the first 11 months this year, Giga Shanghai has delivered more than 650,000 vehicles. Thoughts on this record production report?
This is great. This is what we've all wanted. That there was all those upgrades done to the factory line over the summer that shut things down for a week or two here or there, and now we're there. We're at like this
Yeah,
1.2 million run rate per year plus, and now unfortunately China's in a deep dark recession. It seems like
yeah,
because of their zero COVID policy they've been enforcing for a while now, which they've just like supposedly let up, but who really knows what's going on over there behind the great firewall of China? It's hard to really put my finger on how bad their current recession is. It seems clear to me that a lot of people are scared of making big, durable, good purchases right now or during the zero COVID. But
yeah.
I don't know how bad that's hit Tesla demand. So it's just really tough timing for the Shanghai plant to hit its stride with production being like maximized, yet demand is like probably the lowest that we've seen in China in years for Tesla because of just across the board, not just Tesla in particular, but for all durable goods because of the recession
Right.
over there going on. Right. What
Yeah,
do you
it's
think?
it's yeah, it's quite. I mean, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not just discriminatory towards Tesla. It's just general aggregate demand is down. And we should
Yeah.
add as well, with regards to the Reuters report out there, Tesla actually replied. Tesla China did, at least,
Yeah.
and they denied and they said that the reports were untrue. So I should add that in as well. I'm not sure
Yeah.
why. Like, I'm just not sure why the market wouldn't take back some of the downside here if they flat out denied it. The
Yeah.
I guess the other side of me thinks, well, Tesla China also did deny price cuts were coming,
Yeah.
adamantly so, you know, and then 2 weeks later there was substantial price cuts as well.
Yeah.
So maybe the market just discounts what they say.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, also could mean that there's still going to be it could be they're denying the 20% number, and it could just be, that there will be a
Right.
10% reduction, which, still isn't as bad, but it's any reduction at all is a signal of, the demand, a demand wall or demand cliff hit, where it's not increasing anymore. It's kind of static at that number at the best or
Yeah.
something until the recession ends in China, which who knows when that could be.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the positive thing here is that as long as Tesla Shanghai can continue to produce these vehicles at the cost that they are and with the
Mm,
efficiencies that they are, they can always export these cars out worldwide, maybe take a little bit of a margin hit, lower prices even in China further.
yeah.
We're still not even at prices where they were end of 2020, and
Mhm.
inflation it has cooled down substantially since then. So Tesla does have a lot of margin to kind of play with these vehicles as
Yeah.
well.
And what I think is really difficult, a difficult transition to change on the perception of Tesla. Tesla's been this magnanimous growth stock for so many years, unprofitable, then they became profitable and the valuation was ridiculous. And, now their valuation has come down to a point where,
Yeah.
based on Wall Street's estimates, their forward PE is close to 30. And so, they're not really a they're sort of creeping into like value stock territory or somewhere in between growth and
Mhm.
value stock territory when S&P earnings is like 18 or something, and other, you can't compare to other auto stocks who are, they're debt ridden
For
balance
sure.
sheets, and
Yeah.
it's a very different business model. You got a Tesla's its own enigma, but a 30 PE for something growing still substantially, even if it's not 50% next year because of worldwide recession, maybe it's 30% next year because of worldwide recession, let's say. I don't know, worst case. But still, that's very good growth for something with a 30 PE, I mean, in my book, I feel like people have to have a different lens to look at Tesla with. We're used to being afraid of Tesla's demand being found out. Like, okay, where I hope
Mhm.
that demand continues to be infinite for as much supply they can produce, but if we get to a point where demand is sort of like you hit that limit of demand, and the limit of demand is still growing incrementally year over year, but just not like endless like it has been in the past,
Mhm.
then you can still increase supply, but just incrementally as fast as demand goes up, as the world is adopting to EVs, not, and but I think, a company like Tesla, you have to start looking at it differently because
Mhm.
the PE is going to be below 30 very soon, and a
Yeah.
company that's still growing, even if its PE is, 20 or 25, like that's a great value in terms of a company to own in terms of equities, especially if they're doing a share buyback. And so I think there's a whole different lens to look at Tesla that will soon take effect sometime in 2023. But that's if the stock doesn't bounce back up to like $300 or $400 in the next like few months if the Fed pivots, which I don't think is going to happen probably, but it's still possible. The Fed pivots, the whole macro market kind of bounces, and Tesla bounces with it. But if that doesn't happen and the market kind of just trades sideways, let's say it goes up 5%, down 5%, sort of what we've been doing, and it's just trading sideways, and it's most all the growth stocks are depressed. Well, at some point, Tesla's not a growth stock anymore, right? It's something different.
Yeah, I agree. There's not really any other auto company in the growth state that Tesla is, and that has kind of the terminal value that Tesla has, considering where the world is headed with EVs. And Richard actually clarifies here. He says the Reuters report said the production reduction was probably due to demand. You know what? I even think, Evan, on this, maybe it's Reuters trying to save face after their wacky report almost last month when they said Tesla will do 495,000 cars in quarter four. And everyone's like, wow,
Oh
that's
yeah.
very bullish. Maybe this is them just taking a step back and trying to save a little bit of face and now playing the downside a little bit so they can, at least have some backing as we get quarter four numbers in the next month.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, if it's coordinated within Reuters, I feel like Reuters is probably some big organization with hundreds of different reporter, maybe a few dozen that can report on Tesla. I don't really know the inner workings, but if they're coordinated enough to then I could see that for sure. But I'm not so sure there's that kind of coordination internally within Reuters. Seems
I'm
like a
giving
very
them too much
scattergory
credit.
type company to me.
Right. Fair enough. Uh,
Yeah.
Matthias also says, who actually has awesome Twitter Tesla threads on Twitter,
Yeah,
of
he's
course.
been done great lately. Yeah.
He says he recommends talking about bottom line. Well, of course, we talk about operating leverage that Tesla has, and of course, Tesla EPS. I think every quarter is like over 100% year over year growth.
Mhm.
Um, with I think the interesting part, again, and this kind of actually ties into what I wanted to talk to you about as well, considering that you have experience with FSD, is
Yeah.
V11, is the wide release, is kind of the software aspect of this. Because you say Tesla is not just any auto company. And even at the car level, that stands, right? Like what other car maker has the margins that Tesla has the
Yeah.
demand that Tesla has, and will have for the next 30, 40, 50 years. You won't be able to sell a gas car in 40 years from now.
No.
So yeah, so when we talk about that, that's awesome, that's great. But of course, FSD is so powerful. Aside from robotaxis, if we just talk about it from an operating leverage standpoint, with selling software or selling monthly subscriptions. So, what's your experience been like with the latest version of FSD that you have? And
Mhm.
are you still on timeline by the end of the year that we can get wide release and then V11 and then robotaxis in the next couple of
Yeah.
years?
Yeah, I love the FSD so much that I'm like, it's funny in my Tesla Plaid that I've had it for a while in. I love the
Mhm.
FSD so much that I'm actually afraid to use it now. Now, hear me out. Why? Because I have
Yeah.
4 strikes, and I don't want to get that fifth strike or whatever, where I get banned from using it for so long. So, like,
Okay.
I'm careful not to use it all the time because I'm like, I don't want to lose this privilege. So I'm not going to use it most of the time unless I know I can like listen to an audio podcast and not like be tempted to look at my phone or look to the
Mm,
side and get striked out. Because sometimes it strikes you even when you're, just barely looking. It'll like catch it a second and be like beep 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 beep
really?
beep. And so like
Huh.
I'm cognizant when I do use it. If I get like 2 or 3 beeps, I just turn it off the rest of the drive because I don't want that. If you get like 4 beeps or 5 beeps in a drive, then it gives
Yeah.
you a strike. And if you get like 5 strikes, they kick you out of the program for a while. So for that car, I'm like so scared to use it now that I have I'm one strike away from getting kicked out. But the other car, my wife's car, she just got it turned on like a few weeks ago, and I don't think we have any strikes in that, so I use it all the time still in that car when I'm driving the kids around or whatever, and I love it. Yeah, I
Mm,
just if I'm in a hurry though, I don't usually use it because it's a little slow, like getting on the highway or like it's not aggressive enough getting around cars on the highway, for example. In particular, it'll
right.
just stay in the right lane when it could easily go 10 miles an hour faster in the left lane, for example.
Mm.
But yeah, I
So
love it, and I think more people are gonna, start using it, and that's gonna be a huge bottom line
yeah.
growth, metric to see, impact the bottom line and gross margins.
I think the good news for you is I think they're resetting strikes on the V11. I'm
I
pretty
hope
sure.
so. I hope
Yeah,
so.
I
Yeah,
think
I'll
they
have to
are.
pay attention to that because then I'm gonna I'm gonna go back to using it all the time then, yeah.
So it's funny because I think last time we spoke, you were kind of like, "Well, it's still a little bit iffy. I'm not sure if I would use it on a day-to-day basis." And I think you said, was it you or Matt maybe that was saying like, when I'm sitting in with the family, I don't want to turn it on. Like they're just gonna, it's just too much.
I
Are
do
you
with my kids, but my wife, she
okay?
doesn't like she still doesn't want it. She gets mad if I turn it on, but she still remembers the earlier times when I use it with her. And
She's scared.
it's still not up to her liking probably if it was the first time she experienced it, but I think just her memory of the first couple times I used it and she was just like, "Ah, don't do this." She felt like even more helpless than watching me drive by it was just she didn't like it. Yeah.
And so do you think wide release happens still by the end of the year? Because you're in a very awesome area for FSD. Like you're in the
Yeah.
Bay Area, and it's like if it's going to work anywhere first, it's that area.
Yeah.
Do you still think wide release happens by the end of the year with V11? And do you think like where do you think this progresses until next year that substantially increases take rate for us?
Yeah, I could see it being released, wide released, like New Year's Eve or something. I think he said on
Okay.
the tweet last night or early this morning that in about a week, he said in about a week, which is less than 2 weeks, which is his standard answer. So about a week for early FSD beta testers. So let's say, December 21st or something, the early beta testers get it. That seems about right. That 10 days later, it goes wide release to all the other beta testers. So
Yeah.
that's my guess is the timeline is New Year's Eve. I get, and all the other, beta users, not just the early beta testers get it. But
Mm.
Matt, he's one of the earlier ones, I think, earlier than me, and so he gets it usually like a week before me. So he might get it like that December 21st or something like that.
That'd be an epic holiday software
Yeah.
release,
Maybe he wants to
right?
make it a Christmas present. Yeah, maybe he wants to
Yeah.
do December 24th or something. Yeah.
I mean, historically, Tesla's done like these like super cool releases on like Christmas Day, Boxing Day, Christmas
Yeah.
Eve, like that sort of timeline. So I could
Yeah.
see it. Like last year, didn't we get the Sentry mode in our app now? Was that Christmas or I forget when that was now?
I don't remember. He gives us stuff for Easter or Christmas. He's always trying to
Right.
make the holidays a little nicer to us.
Yeah. It was
It's a nice
gaming.
thing.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
it was I saw it everywhere. Walking around Christmas last year was the little Christmas bells and the lights flashing show that you could like
Mhm.
customize. That sort of stuff was the update.
Oh, the customizing one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked into that. It's just gotta be hands-on with the tech to do that, I think. Yeah, it's not simple. Like
No.
the original Christmas Trans-Siberian Orchestra song, that was great because it was just like you just turn on your car and do a couple buttons and it works. You don't have to like download a USB stick file and plug it in here and there and do things.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about FSD, we talk about subscription. We don't have subscription still up here in Canada, by the way, but it's
Oh, I
that's
didn't
on
know
the
that.
list.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think next year, as this goes to wide release, and some can argue it already kind of is wide release because if you're over what is it, 80 safety score, you should already have FSD beta if you're on it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like you could argue the majority of people fall above 80. But if
Yeah.
once it goes to wider release, let's say, and the huge revenue recognition possibilities after that, what's the next step change in terms of where does Tesla take the program? Because I've had this conversation with Farzad a lot about like how do they start the robotaxi business if they're going to start it next year? Let's say, like, what are the first couple of steps? How do you kind of view that in the realm of possibility, especially in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I don't think they start robotaxi for a while. I don't see it in 2023. I could see it in 2024. But 2023, it just seems like robotaxi implies like level 5 readiness to me. And, level 4 is like someone has to be in the car ready to take over, but the car is driving itself. That's how I interpret it, I think. And level 5 is like no one has to be in the car and the car could drive itself completely all by itself, right? So I feel like um, from a technology standpoint, they might be at that technology sometime level 5 next year. Let's say best case middle end of next year if it accelerates with this single stack version and they get a lot more data coming in from the wide release and they just maybe they just have it just accelerates the capabilities of version 12 version 13 suddenly, and it's just like
Hmm.
incredible. So maybe from a technology standpoint it's like level 5 capable,
Hmm.
possibly like in California Bay Area, like end of next year, let's say. But from an actual like, you know, state regulator, I think the state has to approve it, not necessarily, but this, I think the California state or Florida state, there might be a state or a city that says, okay, let's just that would allow Tesla to do its, robo taxi platform in Miami, for example, or Austin or something like that. So
Yeah.
that's possible they implement it in one or two cities, but I think that's the first step for Tesla. It's not going to be like a wide release robotaxi for, until 2024, 2025, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Um, that's what I think. I don't know. But
Yeah.
even level 4, like such an incredible level 4, I think that spurs adoption because I mean, imagine all the Uber drivers and DoorDash drivers and delivery drivers that would kill to just have a car drive them around and they can like, you know,
Mhm.
play on their phone or do whatever. And, and for
Yeah.
all intents and purposes, the car is doing everything better than they could even do, but they still legally have to sit in that passenger in the car
Yeah.
seat.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that. Brian in the comments is saying that he's been doing Uber and kind of doing the exact same thing, talking to people about his Tesla while Tesla's kind of driving. So,
Yeah. So Tesla's chauffeuring him around with a bunch of
yeah,
strangers getting paid for it
yeah,
just to talk to people. Yeah.
it's yeah. I mean, it's funny, and then actually, this is kind of ties nicely into we haven't chatted since the Tesla Semi has gotten released here a couple of days ago with deliveries to
Yeah.
PepsiCo. We talk about FSD. I mean, I get excited ish about FSD for the consumer, but I really get excited with commercial aspects of FSD because
Mm,
I know how hard of a job trucking is and how underappreciated truckers are in our nation,
yeah.
and the work that they do to get us the goods that we use every day. And it's a hard job. You have to sleep in random cities all the time. You're very tired. You're making coffee, you're having coffee breaks, you're taking back, like, it's a very hard job. And we talk about platooning with the semi, and like a 500-mile range semi is like kind of unheard of in this
Even just
class.
the stressfulness of driving to and from the semi event through this Highway 80 through the mountains in a
Yeah,
snowstorm. I
yeah,
saw the struggle of those truck drivers pulling the side of the road, all trying to put chains on their tires, and yeah,
right.
just how dangerous it must be driving those trucks downhill in the snowstorm.
How far
It's
is that
stressful.
from how far is that from you, Giga Nevada?
It was, I think 200 plus mile, a little more than 200 miles maybe.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, there's like this 100-mile stretch of it that's like pretty brutal with mountains going up. I think you have to go up or down 5,000, depending which way you're going, 5,000 feet in elevation. And there's like a pretty high percentage grade at a couple points. Yeah. So with trucks, there's like all these like off ramps with the brake, when the brakes fail, like
Yeah,
you go.
yeah,
And Elon talked a little bit about that in the presentation, or the other gentleman did. But
Daniel.
it seems a lot very stressful when you have to go through those types of areas in very tough situations. So yeah, like you said, the self-driving capability combined with the hardware advantages of the electric powertrain, and the brakes, that regenerative braking,
Yeah,
all that. There's a lot of
epic.
advantages.
And how was the presentation? How did you like it?
I thought it was good, very well done. It was very tailored to commercial customers and PepsiCo in particular, because that's who's taking deliveries of those first few trucks. Um, so yeah, it was good. It wasn't really for investors as much. It was
Right.
more for just like the trucking industry to get informed about the Tesla Semi, which was kind of cool. And so
Hmm.
they didn't really throw out and lay out the FSD, the full self-driving capabilities yet. That's not baked into the equation yet for the value proposition to the customers that they're selling to right now, is my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I did see a lot of influencers apparently were getting rejected at the door as well. So they were trying to keep it very, I think, customer oriented, like towards
Yeah.
PepsiCo.
Yeah, I
Not
was
sure why.
confused about that. How come what influencers got, like, accepted got invites, but then they got rejected or something? That's
Yeah, it
weird.
was.
They didn't
I think
do
it
it
was
before.
Omar and Kilowatts as well.
I thought
I'm not
Omar didn't
sure.
even go. I thought maybe he didn't even go. He was gonna go, but he didn't go or something.
Yeah, his I think his invite got revoked the day before, and then
Okay.
is it Ryan from Kilowatts? I forget his name. Sorry, but he
Huh.
went there and he got turned back with an invite even. So he said, "Oh
His
yeah."
invite wasn't canceled, he just got turned back
He
suddenly.
just got,
Wow.
yeah, he said, "Are you so and so?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Turn around. You're not allowed in," which is he was a
Wow.
plus one. So yeah, not
He
sure
was a
why,
plus
but
one. Oh, that's why. So
yeah.
maybe they don't want the plus ones to be the influencers, because then if you're an influencer, it's like you're using your leverage to get the plus one. So I can
Oh, okay.
understand that. They don't
Interesting.
want you to have an unfair advantage just because you're an
Just
influencer.
because. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I got it through the raffle, like, very luckily
Okay,
through the raffle. I have
nice.
X amount of shares, and you get a vote. If you register in the system, you get a vote for every share you have. So I have, more than the average. I definitely don't have anything close to Leo Kogwan, but I have more than the average investor. And so I was, I had a significant chance, but I was lucky, very lucky to get the raffle ticket. Only
Hmm.
apparently 25, I think, is the number of retail investors that were selected through this raffle. And so
Wow.
I was in that second drawing, and I got lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a historic moment. I think, what's funny is, like, we always hype up the pre-sale events, like where Tesla unveils a new model and it's still, for all intents and purposes, a spec.
Yeah.
And pre-orders are coming. But when it comes to like the actual delivery event for the semi, I feel like it was subdued in the general market a little bit, with people like it's kind of unheard of. Like a 500-mile semi charges to like 80% in like less than an
Yeah.
hour, 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
It was a little bit subdued, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to speak about how big Tesla is as a company now. Like, if Tesla was Aurora or Fisker or whatever, if it was like a 5 billion market cap company doing this, yeah, I could see the stock, jumping 20, 25% on this one little event, but because Tesla's already, it's still, what is it? I see 575 billion market cap company. I see on my screen
Yeah.
here. It's so big that, like, all right, they're going to deliver 1,000 or 10,000 semis. Like, that's not going to move the needle a whole lot on their earnings to justify such a huge valuation change suddenly. Like, that's
Mm.
how I view it. Like, they're so
Yeah.
big, you really need the needle to be very big to move the stock, and
Mm.
quickly, in a quick
Mm.
news event thing.
I just look at the semi. I'm like, this is something that you talk about moats and the inability for new entrants. Like Tesla
Yeah,
semi is one of those. Like, not only can you just make an electric semi now, you have to make one that can have significant amount of load power, but also have 500 miles of range with it. Which is just going to be unheard of. Like, why would you buy an electric semi that didn't have 500 miles of range as a business? Because
yeah,
the marginal amount that you're going to pay more is worth the extra range and battery efficiency that you have. So,
yeah, yeah,
you know, but
and
I guess you're right.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's not like a large amount of volume, so in that respect, it's not like people care too much about it
yeah.
yet, at least.
One other thing about the self-driving with the trucks, just going back on that, is I talked to a guy who's been in the trucking industry for a while, and he's determined that NHTSA it'll be ages before NHTSA would allow, because it's more of a NHTSA thing to allow, like, cross state, over the whole country,
Okay.
self-driving trucks, I guess, or maybe it's just within the NHTSA regulations, the trucking industry. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
NHTSA will never allow self-driving trucks anytime, for a long time, is the point, because they move so slow and they're so. But the only way I would agree with that, probably that cynical sort of take to progressive technology, but the only pushback I would say is, if DeSantis wins, he seems to be pretty allied with Elon Musk, right? And so if
Hmm.
DeSantis wins in 2024, around the time all the self-driving is sort of taking place for the robo taxis, and you could easily replicate it. So between 24 and 2028, you have this time frame where I feel like he could push NHTSA, maybe put a new head of NHTSA in charge or whatever. Like, he could really put pressure on them, like, hey, let's legalize the self-driving semi trucks, because we don't want our country to fall behind China and other countries that are implementing it. So I
Hmm.
could see in that time frame, that's when the self-driving trucks come to fruition.
Hmm.
You saw with Trump, he would put new heads of
Yeah.
administration. He would be aggressive about getting his agenda done with policies and whatnot by doing stuff like that. And so I could see, DeSantis doing that if he wins.
Hmm.
What do you think? Do
Interesting.
you think that's kind of a way to get it done?
Well, of course, it would help. Tesla and Elon. I haven't followed US politics closely enough to know what's happening in 2024 yet.
Yeah.
I know Trump wants to run as well. He's saying that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure until the primaries
Yeah.
happen. Like, hard to say.
It's
Like, that's
probably, most people think it's either gonna be Trump, or Trump and DeSantis are gonna be the 2 people fighting for the Republican nomination, right? And
yeah.
so let's say it's 50-50. All right, well, 50%
Yeah.
chance DeSantis wins it. Well, the DeSantis is gonna be either against Biden or Newsom, most likely on the Democratic side. So,
Is it
then DeSantis
Newsom?
maybe has a
Really?
50-50 chance against one of those 2. Yeah, that's kind
Okay.
of the thinking right now. I mean, Newsom publicly backed down, saying, like, if Biden wants to run, I won't get in his way. But I think he did that
Okay.
strategically, because if Biden family decides that he's too old to run, they'll back Newsom.
Right. Ah, smart. Okay, gotcha. It's crazy because the funny part with U.S. politics, and I love following you. I've always loved following U.S.
Like a soap
politics. Not
opera.
even being yeah. It's. I mean, first of all, it's always entertaining, but it's always on, right? Like the
Yeah,
election cycle is always on. Even when someone gets elected, it's on for the next election or the midterms. Like,
yeah,
it's never, and it's 1 year's worth of election cycle prior to. So it's like you get the election, then you have like a year, then you have the midterm election cycle, then you get a year, and then you just have the presidential cycle again. It's just
yeah,
it's too much of a roller coaster for me to follow in perpetuity.
yeah. I see Raymond Chen in the comments says DeSantis has the lead in the bookies odds. Yeah, that sounds right. I wonder how much his lead is. Is it like plus, you know, 110, or plus 200 or minus 180 or whatever? I forget what the odds are, but I wonder what
Maybe,
the
yeah,
percentage
slightly.
chances for the odds for him to win the Republican nominee. The one thing about DeSantis, I've heard him speak a couple times, not very often, just like few minute snippets here. He doesn't have that, like, charismatic tone about his speaking, I think, that is as persuasive as Trump, just, with his New York accent, talking so definitively, kind of like humorously in certain ways. He might piss a lot of people off, but a lot of people agree with, a lot of other people agree and just find appealing the way he talks. He's got that charisma
Mm.
about the way he talks to a lot of people. And I'm not sure DeSantis, he's more bland and kind of boring to listen to in a way.
Mm.
I think the substance of what he says is very good, but if you deliver it in a kind of a bland way, it might not catch, So I'm worried about that with him.
Hmm. And we have a super chat here from Grace Hopper's Crunch saying, due to FUD high tides, could this actually be the best time to margin loan Tesla shares and commit to leaps? Thanks for the super chat. Of course, not financial advice. Neither of us can give you that. You have your own risks and rewards. I'd be careful, especially because the macro is not in our favor. And Emmett, I'll let you answer this here in a second. But I just feel like with margin, especially in times that are so tumultuous, and we know a recession, a hardcore recession is coming, given where rates are, given where PMI was last week, given yield curves inverted. I just not sure if the tides are in our favor for that. So I would just caution carefulness during these times, because it's really a big fat question mark. We know the business may be awesome, but in terms of the stock price and where financial markets may lay, and I guess even consumer sentiment around general stuff, just I would caution just being careful with margin there.
Yeah, yeah. None of this is financial advice, obviously, and the macro market trumps everything else in terms of fundamentals of a particular stock, unfortunately, for a while. And so, people have been bringing up this kind of question all the way down. I had people asking me this question, like when Tesla was going below 300 again, and was
Mm.
280 and 270 and 250. And I'm in this like chat group where there's like a bunch of high net worth investors. And I think a bunch of them like loaded up on leaps when it was like 250 or 260, And so all
Right.
those people are severely underwater even more now because they were doing that. And who's to say, if you do it now, Tesla couldn't continue going down to 150, 140, 130, like the macro market is what determines where Tesla goes in the near term, unfortunately. And until the macro market kind of figures things out and equities become popular again, then I just don't know if Tesla can recover anytime soon. The market can stay irrational longer than we can stay solvent. That's the saying. It goes both ways for short sellers and for people who are long, companies that are incredible companies in the future. So just be very careful in this type of time of uncertainty with the macro market. You just need, the Fed to pivot the other way, the wrong way. Instead of saying we're going to slow down rates, they're going to keep raising rates 50 basis points at clip for the next several meetings. And suddenly the market's like, whoa, we didn't price this in. Now
Yeah.
long-term rates are 8%. And now we're taking a lot more. Now institutional managers are taking a lot more money out of equities in general to put it in fixed income. And the whole market's come down, get cut in half from here. Like anything's possible in the next 1 or 2 years why this is happening. So I would just say be very careful if you're going to use any margin or leaps.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea right now. Like back in my heyday when I was
Mhm.
trading aggressively Tesla, but I had a full-time job at the same time with Interactive Brokers, getting paid very well. I had a stock incentive plan with them, a 401k plan with them, and then I had my personal trading account that was trading Tesla. And that was just like my win or go home personal trading account that I was just trying to survive long enough till Tesla kind of flip the
Mm.
books on the shorts and all that, right? So back then, I would be buying leaps and just rolling them forward. But for those, I could lose a lot of money doing that too. Eventually, it paid off, but I think
Mm.
between 2013 and 2019, I think I lost like 60 or 70% of the value of that account for a while because
Mm.
of doing that, until it finally paid off. But
Right.
that was lucky that I was able to keep it going that long. So I don't know what the case is here. Yeah, it's just hard to say how long the macro market kind of keeps everything depressed.
Yeah, and we talk about the Fed, and you talked about the pivot earlier. I think the new pivot is a pause, and it's I just don't see
Yeah.
how it doesn't happen in the next 3-ish months. Like, I know the
Yeah.
Fed likes to jawbone, but it just feels like we're on the precipice of this huge cliff, and it worries me, and it has worried me. And even this December FOMC, of course, everyone's happy about a 50 basis point hike. I almost feel like that's our like that is it. Like that's the tipping point that is going to send us over the edge next year. I feel like rates are already too high. Instead of raising these rates, let's just keep them where they are at even and let time do its thing. But it's Are you worried about next year specifically? Let's say about housing. We know it
Yeah.
has a lag based on Fed fund rates.
Yeah, I am
Hmm.
worried. I think housing's gonna be hit harder and harder. I think home prices across the board are gonna be dropping 10 to 30% in the US, in the next 12 months, depending on where you are. That's gonna hurt people. Loans, mortgage rates are going up. I don't know if they're gonna continue going up, but they've come up quite a bit already. So it's harder to buy a home for home buyers, and that just has like a trickle, you know, up effect. So
Hmm.
yeah, I am worried. This recession could get nasty here. Yeah, I'm worried. What about you in Canada? Is you guys in Canada have? I guess you have a
Similar.
similar
Yeah, we
type uh thing, right? It's through osmosis, sort of.
it is kind of, yeah. We have the Bank Canada that sets the rates up here. I think they've signaled like this last one in December will be kind of like the last ish. They've said that. So, which is also funny because like, you can't publicly come out and say like, look, we're done after this one, because then at that point no one prices in the actual rate, and everyone starts pricing in the future. Like that's the terminal.
Oh,
So it's like you have to job own, you have to say that you're going to be overly aggressive, so then people actually change their consumer habits, and which actually has an effect on inflation.
hmm
But yeah, we're similar up here, but housing has been just slower, but the price effect really hasn't been there as much.
hmm
Like it's just like less volumes getting just less units getting sold in the market, but prices have been pretty stable, depending on, of course, markets in cities and all that sort of stuff. So but yeah, I mean, and what's worse, I guess, is like up here, we don't have 30-year fixed. So you have a 5-year fixed on a 30-year term, or a 30-year amortization schedule. And every 5 years, let's say on average,
You have to
you can
redo it.
change your years. You have to re up at the rate.
Oh
So I have a
wow.
property coming up in February that's up for renewal. And I
Ooh.
thought I got screwed on this when I first got a 5-year on it. It was at 3.44. And I was like, man, like rates are at 1.9. Like I was like,
Yeah.
this is even like last year. I was like, man, I can't believe I got so screwed on this. And now I'm like
Yeah.
looking to renew, and it's like, yeah, the best like variable I can get is like 5.5 or something,
Oh my
5.6,
gosh.
something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just nuts. So in America, at least you guys have the 30-year locked in,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like it is what it is, right? You're just gonna
Yeah.
pay this, but
Yeah. Yeah,
so
we're lucky we had that 30-year locked in. I think that's helpful for, people trying to get their careers in order and start a family and all that. You get that stability. So, yeah,
absolutely.
5 years, having to change it every 5 years, that'd be a little stressful.
Yeah, no kidding. I called it a therapy session with my banker, which I had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
let's talk Tesla long-term demand, because I feel like that's kind of the underlying everything with any narrative that comes out, whether it's production, whether it's demand, whether it's interest rates. It's about, okay, will Tesla have the demand for it? Because I feel like the production side of it, yes, you can still argue about 4680s and where they are at scale, but I think we all think it'll eventually happen with or without Elon focused on Tesla short term. But with demand and everyone talking about, okay, Elon and Twitter, and is this hurting the brand appeal? I forget what news article today or news outlet today had this article on, is Elon hurting the brand reputation of Tesla, and is that going to have an effect on long-term demand? And feels like every analyst on Wall Street is talking about this. But I want to get your thoughts on how much of that do you think is just fugazi, and how much of that you think is actually signal?
I think most of it's fugazi. Yeah, I think the vitriol against Elon is by a very vocal minority, and I think that of that vocal minority, maybe a minority of them will seriously sacrifice personally their own value proposition of an EV because of their vitriol against Elon. When they're looking at Tesla car versus the Ford Mustang or the Chevy Bolt or whatever, the Polestar or whatever, and they're like, well, this one doesn't even have supercharging capabilities, or this one doesn't have over there upgrade. I feel like very few of those people are actually, such a big purchase. They're not gonna. It's not like banning, like going away from Starbucks, going to Pete's Coffee or something simple and trivial to switch to. This is like your
Right.
car. Big part of your identity, big part of your livelihood. And I
Yeah.
think very few people will sacrifice that actual like convenience and utility just in the which, what are they going to do? Post it on Twitter or virtue signal it on Instagram that, hey, look, I bought this because I hate
Yeah.
Elon instead of Tesla. Like, are they going to really get enough brownie points to make it worth their while just to post that picture? Like, I don't think so. I mean, what's behind everyone is our own personal self-interest, no matter how much
Right.
people virtue signal, right? And so, their own personal self-interest will win out for the vast majority, I'd say. There will be some, crazy, wacky, principled people that will, probably buy a gas car instead of an electric car or something. But I think for the most part, it's very minimal demand. I think the bigger problem is the perception
Mm.
of institutional investors worried about it. I
Okay.
think there's some perception of this being a serious problem. But in reality, I don't think it will be. It just means more of these institutional investors are afraid to buy Tesla during this perceptively uncertain time, which really isn't uncertain in demand in my mind, but the perception is it is. So that's the bigger problem is the investors, panicking a little bit because of this, perception they have that demand is less certain now. What do you think
Mm.
about it?
Well, yeah, and as I answer, everyone in the chat, throw in yes or no. Do you think this Elon and the Twitter noise has a long-term effect on Tesla demand? And feel free to explain if you want. I I don't think so either. I think the products speak for themselves. When I'm talking to people that are looking to buy Teslas, for the most part, they don't really care about Elon, for better or for worse. It's the
Hmm.
product, it's the range, it's the efficiency, it's the supercharging network, it's the A1 product. I don't think it is Elon, but you're right because it's such a nuanced take, right? It's like we don't think consumers will change their habits based on Elon just yet. Let's say you can make an argument maybe if this continues and XYZ happens, and maybe I don't think so, but at least we can have that argument. And then the other side of it is we think institutions or hedge funds or money managers are going to avoid Tesla's stock. And so those are two different things, but I think they do have different answers because, like you said, a lot of money managers are just deciding, hey, or seemingly deciding, at least from what we're hearing from analysts, it's just too much noise right now. We're not going to up our percentage into Tesla right now, even though it's a good buy because of all this noise. And we just don't want that, let's say, existential risk on the top line. you know, so in that respect, it does. But like you said, I think this kind of withers out in the medium term. And it also feels like the tide is turning on the Twitter narrative already, where people are starting to see the power of Twitter and that it's slowly but surely changing into and morphing into something that actually could be positive. And Apple just resumed advertising on
Yeah.
Twitter as well,
Yeah.
massively so.
And do you think
So,
Elon I wanted to ask you about that. Do you think, there is more to that discussion than just I think there must have been more than like, they probably talked about a lot of things, I would imagine. Elon's not gonna go visit Tim and just talk about the advertising maybe, but I feel like there's, like, half a dozen things they could talk about that are very material, like,
yeah.
it could be like, Apple's, phone integration with Tesla cars and Apple Music, all that stuff. It could
Hmm.
be Apple investing in Tesla. It could be
Huh.
Apple
Imagine that.
yeah, it could be Apple getting advice from Tesla or getting help from Tesla for its own car project Project Titan that they've been working on forever, which, who knows
Right.
where when it'll happen. There's like so many things, that I think it could be Neuralink and Apple. Like how is, I know Tim Cook's big on the wearables and the health apps with the
Hmm.
watch and all that. So maybe he wants to talk more about what's going on with Neuralink and see how Apple fits into that picture long term. So there's a lot of things they could have talked about that are very material. And I
Hmm.
don't know how, I would imagine Elon's there for at least an hour, maybe a few hours talking to him. So they probably could have
Interesting.
covered a lot of things. I mean, what do you think?
I tend to think that I think Elon was in like disaster prevention mode where he's like Twitter has a risk of getting kicked off the App Store for whatever technicality reason that they probably sent them a bunch of emails saying, "Hey, look, if you don't change this, you're getting kicked off in 7 days or something." And so I feel like Elon was probably in emergency prevention mode there trying to make sure
Hmm.
that Twitter wasn't kicked off. I think
Yeah.
Elon Elon, what we're seeing is like Elon running a private company that's like at scale because Neuralink and you could argue is not really like at revenue scale yet, but Twitter is like this behemoth of a company, billions of people, billions of impressions a day.
Hmm.
And it's like Elon has bills to pay with Twitter, massively so, and he kind of picked up this problem, if you want to call it, where he needs to figure out advertising. And so I feel like he was in existential mode where he pulled all the plugs and all the stops to get his meeting with Tim Cook, which probably wasn't easy considering how much negative PR there has been with Elon in the mainstream media. I'd imagine getting that meeting must have been hard. But like you said, if there's a relationship there, I can't think of Apple. I can't think of a better company than Apple to really form a partnership. Like people call Tesla like the Apple of the cars, right? Like it's like
Mhm.
there's a reason why Apple is kind of has been the gold standard company.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on the team, by the way, that Apple car will never come out, and that doesn't even exist, and it's just a ploy for them to just take recruits.
Yeah.
I never see it. I think maybe there's an infotainment side of that one day, but I just don't think there's going to be an actual hardware side of Apple with the car. But yeah, I mean that would be cool. I mean, Apple Music is much needed in the Teslas. I think we know that. I'm tired of Spotify in there, and Tidal. I'm not even sure who uses Tidal. I don't use it.
Yeah.
Um, Apple Music is much needed, but I mean that would be epic. I don't think. I think Tim Cook needs to do something drastic. It's been a while since Apple's you know came out with something revolutionary other than the iPod, maybe, or the
Yeah.
AirPod. So
Yeah. 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 I think that's all correct. Yeah.
yeah, I see. Let's see. Hold on, where's the comment here? I see some people actually saying that they have canceled their cars in the chat.
I see
Um,
one person saying that. Yeah,
one
I was
person.
scrolling up when you were talking a little, trying to catch it. I saw one person saying that, but of like 600 or 700 people watching, it doesn't surprise me that there's a handful of people, 1% that are like hate Elon and thinks he's toxic and the devil. I think this person said that in the comment section a little bit up. So this is one of those one percenters extremely,
Hmm.
against Elon. So that's my view. I don't know. I haven't seen multiple
Yeah.
people say that. Yeah.
And you know what? I mean, I also think the Cybertruck is going to shift perception as that comes out.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
so stupid saying it because I've been saying it because thinking it's coming out in the next 6 months, like perpetually for the last 2 years, right? But it's like, okay, 2023 is around the corner, let's say middle of next year. I really think this, and the reason why is not just because it's the Cybertruck. I think the user base of the Cybertruck is materially different than the user base of the Model 3 Y or Tesla shareholders today, where it's
Yeah.
a new pool of people. So I wouldn't be surprised to actually see the brand start to shift next year to more of like an American hardcore esque style of brand.
Yeah.
Just with the Cybertruck, like if I'm a general contractor, I just can't think of a better electric car to have than the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Once it's out, of course, today it's the Ford F-150 Lightning,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. The
I don't know.
Cybertruck's going to be sick. I mean, that's gonna blow the top off the perception of Tesla. I mean, the semi truck is one thing, but the Cybertruck is just, that thing is gonna be a monster. I mean, I can't wait to get my Cybertruck. I can't wait to drive around town in that thing. I can't wait to see them on the road all over the place in a snowstorm, whatever, doing crazy thing. People going
Yeah,
camping with them. Like Tesla's gonna just produce a ton of those. They're ordering a bunch of these presses for the Cybertruck. I mean, those things are gonna pumping out of that Austin factory. We'll have like, I think that ramp up will go real fast. I think you'll have the first one or two
mm,
quarters where it's very kind of carefully ramping, but then it'll suddenly just turn on. That S curve will go zip right up to like 100,000 of them a quarter,
mm,
plus, I could see within a year of them opening it up, like starting it up. So I'm excited to see those Cybertrucks everywhere. That's going to be phenomenal to see society kind of switch, the culture of what pickup trucks were, kind of like you'll have the old and the new, and you'll have like the younger
mm.
people all like wanting the Cybertrucks, and the older people kind of like, sticking to the old pickup truck design and maybe switch over to Rivians if they want to go electric.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a set kind of timeline in mind with respect to the first deliveries of the Cybertruck?
I want to say second quarter of next year. I want to
Okay.
say the first deliveries. It seems like they've often done first deliveries of a new product in like June. I feel like that's
Okay.
happened with a lot of their new vehicles. If I can
Hmm.
remember, I think most of them almost. It seems like June is like the kickoff.
Okay.
So if they keep that up, and that seems like timing could be right, the first deliveries might be then. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have any
Um,
thoughts?
I want to agree with you, but I've been burnt so many times where I'm pushing it out to the fall in my head. I'm like,
Mm,
if I don't care, but by the fall, I want to see the first deliveries come through for the Cybertruck. But it would make sense that we'd probably get at least a 3 months head start and notice, because
yeah,
presumably prices are going to change. And so if you're going
yeah,
to change the prices on people last minute, you probably want to give them, at least 3 months to come through with funding and figure that out before you get PR bad press with it, right?
yeah.
So maybe we start to hear about it by end of quarter one. But I'd be objectively disappointed if we did not have a delivery by the fall next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, me too. I see Raymond Chen again in the chat reminded us of the one of the big points of the semi unveiling was they mentioned that the Cybertruck recharging speed will be similar or the same level as the semi truck. They mentioned that, so that's huge. Like you'll plug in your Cybertruck, that thing will charge like to full in like 10 minutes. You know, it's practically it's going to be crazy fast charging. Like when you need it, the megawatt charger or whatever that I forget what the standard is for the semi, but you'll be able to use that crazy new
Megawatt,
version
yeah.
charging. Yeah.
Yeah. So does that mean then, because they said that they're going to convert some of the stalls, right, to be
Mm.
megawatt? Does that mean like that's going to be a huge capital project that has to take into account before Cybertruck deliveries happen? And if that's the case, like how long does that take?
Yeah, I think they start putting those in place, right away as now they're delivering the first semi trucks. So I think I don't think it's huge, given how big Tesla is at this point. Like maybe, if it was a much smaller company, it'd be much more substantial. But I don't see it being too huge. I think that even though they have to deploy mega packs, at these charging stations, the mega packs themselves make money, being part of like the virtual grid, in between being used to charge up Cybertrucks or semi trucks. So they're like a money making center just to putting them down wherever anyway, in a way. So I'm not sure everyone realizes that you know it's not just it's not like you just have to put down the mega pack batteries to be ready to charge the semis and then refill and recharge the semis, but these mega packs are actually being used to stabilize the grid in those areas as at the same time and making money. So there's maybe it pays for themselves just to put them down there in a certain amount of time. So I don't
Hmm.
think it's a huge capital expenditure. It's just it'll be laborious to go through all the
Yeah.
approvals locally at each spot. Maybe they can just easily add them onto current charging stations. Who knows? But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah. But it would be something that they'd have to do virtually everywhere if they're going to want to release the Cybertruck, though, right? Because you
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Well, I think the Cybertruck will have options. You'll have probably the
Okay.
super fast charging option, and then you'll have the normal,
Right. Right. Makes
150
sense.
kilowatt. You have the other options too. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for the super chat as well. Down 7% of the day. Hold me action. It's like
Yeah.
Groundhog Day, man. It's crazy. It's like every week there seems like there's another report to look at the market cares about. So,
Yeah. I saw one guy's tweet recently on Twitter, and I forget the where he got. There's some stat that says like of the last like 10 years,
mhm.
Tesla, through its historic rise, going up like 100x or more, in market cap over the last 10 years, that 70% of the time Tesla has been going downwards or flat, mostly,
Mm,
downwards at least a little bit, and only 20 or 30% of the time has it been going on. Have
mm,
so it's just painful being a Tesla investor, even though it's going up 100x. The vast majority of days, nominally speaking, it's a down
yeah.
day.
Right.
So
Well, someone had put a comment here earlier. Remember how much Tesla jumped when Hertz said they were going to partner? I mean, that's it. Like, if you look at October to November of last year, pardon me, like
yeah,
how much did it jump? Like it was crazy to see. Like I was streaming seemingly every day saying, "Oh, it's 1,000 now, it's 1,100." I think I had you and Dave on, and I think you were getting so much shit, Emmett, in the comments because you were like, "Well, guys, look, we're at all-time highs, but just be careful. This thing can go back under $1,000 again. The market's
yeah,
wacky." And no one wanted to hear any of that, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
we were all on cloud nine. But
yeah,
um, it's good to have the same reverse perspective almost right now, where it's like, okay, well, it's not just Tesla that's hurting. Of course, Tesla's hurting versus its beta on the Nasdaq, but it's the general market. It is slapping everyone in the face, regardless of what you own. I mean, other than like maybe, energies or commodities or bonds or something if you have, but
Yeah.
it's just generally hurting tech altogether. So,
Yeah, it is hurting. Yeah. Yeah.
so
It's not in favor. Equities that aren't giving huge dividends, especially, are not in favor right now. Yeah.
yeah. And I know you have to head out here in a second, but on the last note, I wanted to ask you, other than the Fed, because I know that Trump's all here, what do you think is the next like big, not, I don't want to say catalyst because that's a loaded term now, but it's the next big event or Tesla proposition to look towards? I guess catalyst is probably the right word, to look towards that can actually have meaningful effect on the stock, whether it's earnings, a product unveiling, 4680 news. Like, what do you think that is? Because even with the record deliveries last night from China, it seems like the market doesn't care.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of maybe three things. One is the initiation of a buyback. I think that changes
Okay.
the tone. Like, hey, Tesla is sort of like a dividend paying stock now. It does deploy its excess capital back into the stock. In this macro environment that can potentially change the tide for Tesla the stock. I think, but it has to be combined with other things. It can't be just like a one. It can't be seen as just you know a ploy. So the other things I think are that the demand worries have to be put to rest. And I
Okay.
think in Q1 and Q2, you'll see that largely in the US, especially with
Right.
the Inflation Reduction Act. So I think a lot of the demand, depending on what happens on China, is China really going back to business now? Zero COVID shutdown? Is zero COVID over or not? And if China's coming back online and demand picks up again there, and the U.S. demand will be strong just because of the Inflation Reduction Act, in my opinion, then I think that demand worry kind of gets put to the side for a while. And then the third thing I would say that would really help is if we can see from the bottom line, if we can deduct from the bottom line from the Q1 and Q2 earnings reports that FSD adoption is creeping up, and I think if we can deduct that, the take rate now I think we estimate good soil is like 10 to 15% or something like that in the US. Well, if we can back out the numbers and reverse engineer to an estimate of 20% in Q1 or Q2, and then it's like 25% in Q3, like that trend I think will catch Wall Street's eye, and it'll show up in the margins especially, but I think it'll change the view of Tesla as well. So if you combine those three things, I think that could be a real
Hmm.
catalyst for the Tesla stock valuation. Those are my three things I'm watching.
Right. And the IRA is going to be
Absent
huge.
the macro market. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, of course, that goes without saying. Interesting. Well, I generally agree with all of them. I think it makes sense, but I guess the numbers have to do the talking for now, and until we get the numbers, it's just kind of like status quo and dealing with report to report and tweet to tweet of what happens. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Tweet, tweet.
I appreciate you coming on, so throwing
Yeah.
some sensibility into the conversation and providing
Yeah.
some groundedness, but good or bad, whatever it is, just facts are facts, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on, man.
I can't
Thanks
wait
for
till there's no problem. I can't wait till there's like a button or an integration to easily press a button to have this live streamed on Twitter at the same time very easily, because I think that'll change the game for social
I
media too when you have a bunch of
I hope
YouTubers that
so.
could easily live stream
I
on
know.
Twitter at the same time.
I
Just
feel
a
like
little
it's
different now.
1999 whenever I share tweets with YouTube links and it's like nothing shows up, and
Yeah.
I
And you
agree.
share a
I agree.
YouTube video with tweets, you're showing tweets in the YouTube video. It's just like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It will happen soon enough. I
yeah.
bet you that. I bet Elon's already like has it all down because he watches YouTube just as much as probably we do, I think. So
Yeah, although I don't know if he does I don't know if he watches live streams. Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole thing that you got me caught up on, and like you got me interested in the live streaming because I think that's a nice niche. And it's like live news. People don't want to see
yeah.
recorded news; they want to see
Yeah,
live news. So it's a
exactly.
nice niche to be
Exactly.
able to let Twitter kind of take over.
Well, everyone go follow Emmett on Twitter, at Emmet Peppers, Good Soil on YouTube, an awesome channel with him and Matt. Go live every Tuesday, right? Is it?
Yeah, Good Soil Investment. We have a live stream every Tuesday at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. So we try to keep that consistent.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
All
man, for
right.
coming on. I'll let you
Thanks,
sign off
Joshua,
now.
for having me. Okay.
Take
All
care.
right. I'll
See you.
talk to you later. Bye.
Peace. So I think I'll keep streaming here, folks. If you want me to keep streaming, let me know in the comments if I should sign it off. Now, $181 sitting on Tesla. Emmet's awesome. Thanks, Emmet, for coming on. It's also good to just get perspective, bounce ideas off people in person or on voice as close as we possibly can. Okay, it seems like there's enough demand. All I need is one person to say yes, and it seems like I'm working. So Nick says I'm working. Don't stop. You know what's funny? How many people in the chat are working as they're listening to me right now? I appreciate that. Okay, seems like we got. It seems like we got one person saying yes. That's all I need. I'm kidding. We got more than one. Tony says Tesla will keep 90% of the semis and use money on internal logistics. That's the only way semi makes higher return. You know, I love the idea of Tesla keeping their semis. I think that's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense. And of course, if you can get the highest marginal return from using it themselves, I think that's a perfect idea. Frenchie says, is it being shorted heavily? Elon selling? I don't think so. Volume is 77-ish million. It's about average on the day. Would it surprise me if Elon's selling? Yes. No. Maybe so. Okay, let's put it to the comments. Is Elon selling today? What's your guess? Yes or no? Throw it in the chat. Thank you, folks. Keep streaming. Okay, working with lunch. 9 p.m. in the Netherlands. Marco, how's it going, my friend? An awesome mod. It depends how you define working. Grace says retired. There we go. Scott says working at home with 2 screens rocking. There we go, Scott. Kicking up work. Raymond says, no, Yash, stop streaming. I want Emmet back. Well, the good news is Emmet does have a YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out. Good soil. Yash, check up on the Tesla news. Tesla denies reduced production. Yes, actually, Jan, we actually went through that in the beginning of the stream, but I'm happy to recap here for people. So last night, after I tweeted out, we're going to rally, it seems like we got a Reuters report saying in December, Tesla will be reducing production of the Model Y by 20%. Now, this kind of coincides with what Rob Maurer of Tesla Dailies was reporting, albeit he wasn't reporting it as a fact. He was saying, look, this is kind of what I'm hearing. I'm reluctant on saying it, but this is the one person that's kind of pointing me in this direction. So, it was out there a little bit, but it seems like the Reuters report really put it into high gear. Now, Tesla China, actually, because they do PR in China for Tesla, they came out and they said this is untrue. Now, we have people on Twitter. Actually, I have a Gary Black tweet I want to show you guys, actually criticizing Tesla's team on this a little bit. I'm going to pull it up. Where is the tweet? I thought I saw it here. 1 second. Gary says, this should be obvious, but there's a huge difference between an article saying, there's a huge difference between saying an article has, quote, false information versus saying it's, quote, false. Tesla is doing investors no favors by using the former language without explaining what specific aspects of the Reuters Bloomberg articles are false. A press release or comments from Tesla detailing what aspects of the article are false would go a long way in getting Bloomberg Reuters to correct their misleading stories. But until Tesla clarifies what is false, the media will say whatever it wants. This is the problem, though, and I think this is why Tesla is very hesitant to even talk about PR a lot, or have their PR team say a lot, is because then you kind of get into this rabbit hole of having to chase your tail in perpetuity. You always have to provide more details. If a follow-up question happens and you don't answer, are you then seemingly guilty in the court of public opinion? This is the problem, I guess, is like people start asking more and more of general things. So I still consider it a win that Tesla came out and they said it was untrue. I think that goes far enough. And again, if you didn't know, Tesla China reported meter report of December output cut at Shanghai plant is untrue. I think that's pretty black and white, though, in my opinion. You guys are saying, I doubt he's not selling. No. Stay safe, Richard. You're driving. Yes, says Evan. No, he's not selling. No, a lot of no's in the chat. What if he sold? Graf says, if he sold, what would you do with the money? I'm guessing fund Twitter, but that's just kind of the general sentiment. And we don't know the last time why he sold either, so we can just fill in the blanks the best we can. What does volume indicate? The volume indicates an average day. I hate to say it. Like, the volume doesn't indicate too much today. I'll pull up my Weeble. 181.50 sitting on Tesla, volume 78 million. I don't think it's too much here. Let's see here. Why should Tesla have to correct every article? That's it, Alex. Exactly. Is I loved it when Tesla came out and they fired back at this, but it's hard to argue that it doesn't open up a can of worms, because now if someone publishes a follow up, like I said, or has XYZ more questions, and you don't answer it, are you guilty? I don't know. Raymond says not enough plans shipped from export to from Shanghai. Well, remember the last month. Forget about the delivery wave for a second. The last month, all production really will be heavily skewed towards local deliveries. I think end of year that is especially the case. Yeah, it's never enough. Exactly. I had this thought today. I was like, you know what? All the YouTubers, I was thinking like we should get together and like make a Tesla a blog site or yeah, blog site or a news publication or something that reports that combats a lot of this FUD, like blogs, because I feel like YouTube is great, of course, bias, but I feel like a lot of people don't share YouTube videos as much as they share just headlines of articles. I don't know why. And I guess Twitter kind of acts like a semi microblog, but Chris, China isn't cutting anything, actually. At least that's what Tesla China says. I mean, that's the problem, right? Hold on, let's see here. That's the problem with I lost my train of thought. But 20%, let's say, that would objectively be bad, because the last thing we want is Tesla to cut production. Production is the one thing that we want to keep pushing forward to. We can move the cars around the world to fulfill them, but they should not be cutting production, of course. But Tesla coming out and denying it. Oh, yes, my point. Tesla also denied price cuts were coming in China, and then 2 weeks later had price cuts. I'm not saying this is the case again, but I'm looking at it from a Wall Street perspective. And could it be the case that analysts are just saying, look, we have credible information of it, despite them denying it? We know this happened last time as well. I don't know. Maybe. That would be awesome. A Twitter page would be enough. Well, yeah. I mean, Tesla started to tweet out some stuff recently. We got more spam in the chat here. Yikes, where is it? Thank you. Who got that? Thank you, Tyler and Sean and Marco, for getting that FUD. This spam in the chat, man. It's just the YouTube platform is just is reckless like this. This is the problem when I don't catch up with chat and I'm catching it up after it's happened. Well, I'll throw in the chat. So Richard says, if China delivers 250, Fremont 150, Austin, Berlin 60K total, excluding the 20,000 mystery sum, that's 450K in Q4 rounding. Throw in the chat what your prediction is for, and I know it's a little bit premature, but throw in the chat what your prediction is for what Tesla does Q4 in production. Tesla, remember, Reuters said 495. I'm not believing that. So I should start doing Twitter Spaces. Yeah, I've tried it for a little bit. Honestly, though, Chris, is like Twitter Spaces, I don't like how there's no video, And I get it. Some people just listen to audio only. But I like the video interaction. By the way, if anyone wants to come on stream, I'm going to throw in the link in the chat. You can do it on your phone too, but yeah, camera will have to be on. I'll throw the link in the chat. If anyone has a question or anything they want to say, feel free to come into the stream. Bring the good juju. I'll throw in the chat here. 400 and where is it? Let's start where the guesses start. 469. Oh, Tesla denied the 20%. Yes, that's the false information. Correct. 430. It's a little bit low. 474. 475. Just production or deliveries. Let's do production. We got Tony here. Hold on. Let me just make sure that my screen is working. Tony, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up?
Good.
It's going pretty good. Just a thought that I had about the semi. I'm curious how many other people thought this, and you highlighted a comment that I had about it. But I really get the feeling like Tesla is doing that thing where they kind of anti-sell things, in the past with the semi. because there's no real incentive for them to try hard to sell it, because outside of, their strategic partners, their early reservation holders, like why would they sell these semis? They're going to make way more money using them internally for their own logistics. And I think for the next 3 years, maybe as long as 5 years, most of the semis they'll just keep and just use them, within their supply chain, maybe get them out to their suppliers, move all their stuff. Because if it takes 12 Model Y batteries to make a semi, the only way you're going to make that much money on a semi is if you use it, right? And then beyond that, like them ramping the semi also seems to me like the fact that they chose to do it now is because they knew the economy was in the toilet. And like the main thing that could pull back in terms of demand are long range cars, which use the same batteries as semis. So I think what we could see like in China is the demand for, cars with 2170s might go down, but they'll continue to just ramp up LFP cars, and they could shift those cells around. Because the most important thing is that they just continue to expand like the space they're taking up in the supply chain and continue to gobble up as many cells as possible. And they've got like the cash on hand, right? To put money into building semis, even though the return for them takes longer. Like it's a gradual trickle versus like an upfront sale of 12 Model Ys or whatever. But that's just a thought that I've had about the semi and how, like it's been in the works for 5 years. Has it really taken 5 years? I think it's more like the opportunity has been right for right now.
And it's the best case study too, right? If you're gonna try to prove to the industry why these electric semis are the way to go for your logistics and transportation, like the best case study would be Tesla themselves eating their own dog food and saying, look, we're using them and this is the cost efficiency we're seeing. This is how fewer trips we have. We have autopilot enabled for X amount of the trip. Like they can make a whole case study platform out of it. Because they know, they're not going to be able to scale these to infinity next year. So why not take a big portion of them, make a case study out of it? I'd be curious to ask you, Tony, do you think they should do the same thing with the Tesla bot?
Absolutely. And with the Tesla bot, it's even more straightforward because it's like, well, the most important thing with the Tesla bot to me isn't how smart it is or how smart the AI is. Obviously the rate of improvement with the AI is important, but the most important thing about that presentation was they're going all in on trying to make it cheaper. So the cheaper you make the robot, the less smart it has to be useful, So if they can get to that point where they can make these things for like $40,000 or $20,000 or whatever, like, a $20,000 robot where all it can do is pick up a box and move a box, just like in a line, that's already really useful, and anything else with the AI getting smarter is just upside from there. So I think that's the most important thing with the bot is getting it to be as cheap as possible to build. And then everything with the AI getting better and it getting more functionality over time, it's sort of like speculative, it'll happen when it happens, similar to FSD in a way. But yeah, I think that they'll probably have like a room in Giga Nevada, like within a year or something, where it's just robots doing stuff. And I think it would be Giga Nevada because that's the place where they've had the hardest time getting people to move there. So it makes sense for there to be a room that's just, this is the room where the robots like assemble stuff and they're figuring it out. And, at this point they're 1/4 the speed of humans, but they're doing it. So yeah.
I love that idea and it makes sense. And I think even robotaxis, like I feel like every product I'm going to talk about, I think Tesla should use this strategy of eating their own dog food, presenting the world with the case study of it. Semis make sense. Tesla bot makes sense. Robotaxis make sense. Everyone says they want to outsource the fleet to Hertz or Avis. I think Tesla should own a fleet as a micro case study, prove it out, show the logistics and the economics behind it, and then that'll serve as a franchising point for any other fleet managers in the future and kind of like the state of the art operation of it. So
I do have a sort of theory with ramping FSD and robotaxis is that working with someone like Uber or at least Uber drivers and recruiting Uber drivers is a way to maybe make it more politically palatable. So you can get a certain amount of that, because there's gonna be a lot of people who lose their jobs, right? Where Uber drivers are full time. So you can get a certain amount of them on board in the sense that they're owners of cars. So that there's like there's a feeling of there's a pathway from what I'm doing now as an Uber driver to maybe being like a manager of a fleet of robo taxis, you might be able to flip them. But that's maybe that's like a weird political strategy. I don't know.
Yeah, the Uber. Yeah, the only problem there is like anytime I think of Elon or Tesla buying an existing platform, I just get a little bit of the heebie-jeebies thinking about the
Oh,
baggage.
I'm not even thinking about like buying an existing platform. I'm just talking about like if there was a way to through the leasing program, they're leasing these
Oh yeah.
Teslas for Uber drivers to just poach the best Uber drivers and
Oh, I
basically
see.
like poach them, bring them into your system, get them bought in, get it so that they can benefit from it going to FSD, and they'll be like sort of your like your political allies. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. So I love the thoughts. By the way, we have a question for you. Steven asks, "What are you growing behind you, Tony? Is that a?"
Oh, it's just lettuce and
I love it.
some greens and stuff. Yeah,
I
yeah.
have one
It's
of those awkward grows as well. That's dope. Well,
yeah.
thanks, Tony. That was awesome. Great insights, man.
Thanks. Peace.
Take care. Awesome. Give it up to Tony, guys. That was a awesome chat here. We have Blue as well, who I'll get to in a second. Thank you for the super chat, McCurry. If Tesla had a PR team or PR department, a reporter would have to ask before going to press. Well, to my understanding, they do ask. It's just Tesla never replies. And so they can kind of run with the narrative is kind of it. Blue, I don't see you. I'm not sure if I can hear you either. Oh, there we go. Blue, how's it going, man?
Good. So I'm sitting there thinking that maybe if this report is true, the only reason it is true is because Tesla's going to upgrade their LFP batteries in 2023, and they're basically using up all the stock. And if they release that car too early, it'll mess up all the sales in China this quarter.
So they're going to change the battery mix starting next year so they can produce it with LFPs moving forward?
The new CATL chemistry that, I don't know if you watched the Electric Viking guy, he's been pushing all year. There's some new chemistry coming that's cheaper and with more range. Or there's an interior or air suspension upgrade, because in China, all the high-end EVs have air suspension and the low ends have normal suspension. I think Tesla needs to do something there to compete. Upgrade the interior, do it at air suspension. So if there's any chance of it being true, I think it's because there's some sort of a large upgrade coming next year. Kind of like when they did the 69 420 Model S, they were just clearing the inventory.
Right. And so does this fall in the report that we heard last week where they're going to do a refresh, I think in Fremont, of the interior of the Model 3? Could that go hand in hand with that in China, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. And there was a video from Wuwa where there was a Model 3 completely camouflaged as well in China 2 days ago. So something's happening. And then there's been reports about that battery all year. So I don't know. That's what I think it would be. Either that or it's bogus.
So it's just semantics at that point where it's, they're reducing this because they're going to be replacing it with X chemistry later or X battery later. So you can see why that's kind of lost in translation when it comes out with 20% reduction or something.
Well, you can't say it, right? You say, hey, we're producing, like we're running out of Gen 1 LFP batteries this quarter, and then everyone's going to cancel. We're going to be like, okay, we want Gen 2. So they have to be very careful about how they're going to say it. They basically have to like sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah. People saying, hope you're on autopilot. Blue.
I am.
All right. Awesome. I appreciate the comment. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Love this community. Thank you guys for making my day. Wasn't having an awesome day, but you guys are making it good. Elon tweeted, says, I hope Alex is not pulling my leg here. I'm gonna go on Twitter and pull it up here, but I trust Alex enough to pull up the comment on the screen. How about that? But I'll go find it now on Twitter. Let's see here. Elon. You know what's funny? When I search Elon, sometimes he doesn't even show up as the number one. Okay, I don't see Elon tweeting that, but Giga Shanghai production will slightly increase for the first. Really? Okay, Alex, Alex just got me, I think. Fool me once. Is a smaller, cheaper China car coming? I think it has to eventually. I'm kind of done with the whole pontificating or guessing on when the timeline is, because it's just hard to read into anything Tesla related at the moment. Alex got me. Let's see here. Yeah, Tony was awesome. Shout out Tony. Let's see here. What else you got? So let's pull up Webull. $181.61 sitting on Tesla. We got 35 minutes till close here. Let's pull it up here. Let's do a general market update. The VIX, folks, is not great. It is up 10% today. Albeit it's only 21-ish bucks, but it is up 10% today. So that has something to do with high growth weakness, of course. The yields are up a little bit today, 3.6%. S&P 500 is down 2% on the day. Same with the NASDAQ. And Tesla is down 7% on the day, where I think 4% would be falling with an average. So we have about a 3% delta of what we need. No worries, Alex. All good. Yeah. So Elon talked about the design studio. Well, yes. What was the timeline for that? Does anyone remember what the timeline was for that? Elon talking about the new model and the design for the Model Q or 4 or whatever it was. That was supposed to be a couple of years ago now at this point. Is the smaller Chinese design car the same as the robotaxi? Well, let's not forget, Elon has said every Giga will have unique products for their geographical area. So he said what a car here will be in Germany is not going to be the same car that we make in China. I'm not sure how they get to that point, but they do. You know, it's funny. I tried asking. How many of you guys have been playing around with GPT today, the OpenAI platform? Anyone playing with this? It's kind of going viral on Twitter, and I've been using it a lot. Actually, I've been generating code with it as well. If you don't know what this thing is, it's OpenAI's ChatGPT, where essentially you can ask it anything, and it's like a butler, right? You can be like, make me design me a workout plan that focuses on upper body, and I want to work out 3 times a week, and it'll create a platform or a whole model for you. I've been asking it to generate code. I want to dynamically input UTM parameters on my landing page depending on what people are entering. Give me the code for that, the Java code. It starts writing it out. Ekpop says I tried asking it to write an academic paper. It works great. I can say write me an academic paper on why Tesla will be the largest company in the world in 2030. Let's see what it says. Here's a possible outcome. Look at this. Number 1, introduction. Briefly introduce Tesla and its current status as a company. Number 2, state the thesis in the paper. Background. Provide some. Look at this. This is making an entire table of contents for me. This is one outline. Can I say write it? Can it write the paper for me, or maybe it doesn't? Let's see what happens. This is insane, folks. You have to start using this thing. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Anyways, while it buffers here, I don't know, it's never happened to me before, but I was asking it today, should Tesla have a PR team? And it's replying saying, it's not for me to say whether or not Tesla should have a PR team. Every company is different, has a unique set of needs and challenges. A PR team can be a valuable asset for a company, blah, 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 blah. And it wouldn't answer anything. I said, does Tesla have a demand problem? It's difficult for me to say. As I'm a large language model trained by OpenAI, I don't have the ability to access current information or verify rumors. I was asking it about the rumors and whether they had any validity to it. We should try asking it to write a FUD article, Reuters style. Write an article from Reuters that shits on Tesla. Is that my internet, or did I get booted off of OpenAI? Did they kick me out? Too many requests. Slow down, folks. I've been blackballed. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Too many requests. I am not requesting anything, folks. I might have been blackballed live on air. Dave was asking it to show for statistics. Really interesting, folks. This is insane, though. Like, I have to say, you should go check out OpenAI's. Well, maybe I'm going to refresh. I don't know why it's saying I'm asking it too much. Okay, here we go. Write an article from Reuters that shits on Tesla. Let's see. Wow. So look at this paragraph. Despite the fanfare surrounding the company's sleek designs and innovative technology, the company has struggled to ramp up production and meet demand. This has led to a host of quality control issues and safety concerns. Wow, this is really good. Well, subjectively speaking, this is insane. Like, strike. This is insane. Ask it to do a bear case on Tesla. I like that. What's a bear case on Tesla? A bear case for Tesla is a negative outlook for the company. This could be on a variety of factors. One major concern for Tesla is the company's ability to ramp up production and meet demand for its EVs. Folks, this is really good. Another bear case is the company's financial health. Really? Okay, let's read about this. While Tesla has made some progress in reducing its debt and increasing its cash reserves, it's still not profitable. Okay, this is a classic bear argument, and because it's actually incorrect. It's factually incorrect. It's still not profitable and continues to burn through cash at a rapid pace. This is a classic bear scenario right here. Wow. Well, I guess it does make sense. I think they stopped taking data into this model in 2021. So you should ask it to continue. Alex has a good one. Write a cover letter as to why I'd be a good employee for Tesla. Can we check if this is plagiarized? Yeah, honestly. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Write a cover letter for why I would be a great employee on the Tesla semi production line. Let's see what it has to say on that. This is insane, isn't it? Like this technology that we have. Dear hiring manager, I'm writing to apply for the position on the Tesla semi production line. I'm a highly motivated and skilled individual with strong work ethic and a passion for EVs. I'm confident I'd be a valuable asset. I have several years. Folks, look at this. It wrote an entire cover letter. It's insane what this thing does. Where will Tesla stock be in 2030? Let's see what it has to say about that. Sorry, but I'm not allowed to browse the internet and provide you with current information on Tesla stock price. Okay, so there are some things it can't do. It's insane, right? It's actually insane. Okay, go play around with that on your spare time. Let's talk Tesla stock. 181.56 sitting on Tesla. You can ask about historic. I was actually getting some value from it. I was getting it to write me some code on my site, and the code worked. So no complaints on my end. Okay, 181.60 sitting on Tesla stock. Should we? We got half an hour left here. What should we do in the half an hour until the market closes? Pull out some YouTube stuff. See what Discord's got going on. Any YouTube videos on Discord? Let's see here. Yahoo. Let's see if Yahoo's been talking about Tesla. I love pulling up Yahoo or CNBC, depending on what they're talking about. 181.64 sitting on Tesla, down 7%. Okay, Jim Cramer bullish on Tesla. Let's pull this up. Don't worry, folks. We're going to be entertained here. We're rallying, folks. Sure, we'll play wrong answers or questions only here in a second. Let me just try to make this a little bit bigger. That's what she said. Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. Mr. Cramer is with us in the chat. Let me just make sure the audio works. I got to turn off echo cancellation, and is this going to work? Let me see here. Stop screen share. Hold on. I'm guessing you guys couldn't hear that. Hold on one second. Okay. Screen share this. Let's watch Jim Cramer and what he has to say about Tesla stock. You guys heard that? Okay. Can you guys hear that? Could you guys hear the audio there? Let me know.
Today say the automaker is set to cut December Model Y output at Shanghai by up to 20% from the previous month amid waning demand in China. By the way, the company has since come out and said that that report is, quote, untrue.
Yes, but very quiet. Is it still okay? It's only a couple minutes long. Okay, yes. Okay.
Look, I mean, that number is pre the reopening. I like to buy Tesla on that. I think that's a great opportunity to buy Tesla because I think the opening is going to do well. I continue to hear, I mean, Twitter, I have to go there, David. You know, they have like about a quarter of the people they had, and it's still tweeting, still working.
It still hasn't broken.
No, it hasn't broken. You get in it.
I don't
posted
know
some
what's
Eagles
going on
pictures.
underneath there. I mean, you never know.
But wouldn't it be amazing if he just literally
could collapse
figured
at
out how
any
to do
moment.
it with like nobody?
It would be amazing. Yeah.
Maybe
But of course, when you don't have any advertisers, you also don't have to really worry.
I hear people coming back.
Really?
Well, yeah, you heard that?
No, I haven't.
Small.
But I still use it in the same way I always have, which is I view.
Yes, mostly
I don't really like to say much. Carl's more active because anytime you do, people misunderstand you, don't follow you.
Usually great 5 to 6 a.m. is Carl time.
Carl time.
Well, that's when you post your best stuff. I love it.
I'm just writing it down to remember it later in case I need to search.
I think it's
I really am
fabulous.
not interested in whether other people read it.
Well, I read it and I'd say, okay, good. There's something I can talk about.
You still monitor your mentions column or no?
Oh yeah, very closely. I monitor my mentions column from Byberry Hospital. That was an old mental hospital that they managed to close, which was good.
You know, it's funny. I think Carl's very anti-Elon at the moment. I've been seeing him retweeting a lot of anti-Elon stuff. So folks, I don't know what a bigger sentiment of saying your product is amazing is if you hate everything about the product, but you still want to use it, or hate everything about who owns the product, yet you still want to use it. That's where we are with Twitter. People that hate Twitter, hate Elon, are still using Twitter. So, you know, yeah. He doesn't tweet because he's afraid of getting canceled. He literally just said that in somebody's end. Well, he's retweeting. I'm not sure if you're talking about Jim Cramer or not, but if you're talking about Carl, I mean, retweeting, can I take that as an endorsement? I don't know. I guess some people put in their Twitter bios, retweeting does not equal endorsement of tweet. And I guess that's why they do that, because they're in media. Do you guys get old? Chris is asking, old Elon, Jack Dorsey, Kathy videos coming up in YouTube feed. Be careful. Those are usually spam. Those are usually crypto scams that are live. Those are never actual real videos. So be careful with that. Even if it says ARK Invest under it or Tesla, just disregard it. It's asking you for crypto money. So take that into consideration. 181.84 sitting on Tesla here. The stream, the link is still active, folks. If anyone wants to pop on stream, throw a comment, question, feel free to. Still active here. $181 sitting on Tesla. Let's see what's new on Twitter. Let's do that. If anyone has any cool tweets, feel free to tag me in them as well. I'm monitoring the situation. Carl and David are OG haters. Jim is wishy-washy. Well, Jim Cramer really loves Tesla when it is rallying. I mean, to be fair, right now he just said, look, I like Tesla where it's at. Why he likes Tesla shares despite all the negative backlash happening right now and the report and whatnot. So there is that. Let's see here. What else do we got? What is Palantir doing? I don't know. Palantir is down 6%. Palantir is $7.20. Crazy. Look how thin it's trading too. Look at these handles. Just absolutely e-liquid. Oh, that's not Tesla. Speaking of e-liquid, look at that. 181.70 sitting on Tesla. Lucid down 6.5%. Let's put my EV watch list. Honda down 1.5%. NIO down 2%. Toyota down 2.2%, GM down 2.6%, Ford down 3%, Rivian down 6%, like I said, Polestar down 5.5%. It's just general weakness all around. What site are we seeing? This is Webull. This is actually a software. The Webull's broker software. Let's see here. Let's go back on Tesla though. Let's see. Carl retweets nearly 100% negative sentiment articles on Elon and Tesla. Yeah, and I guess to be fair, like someone's saying, look, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's his views, which is, I guess, fair. Mad Money, Jay Lizard saying, Mad Money got me into finances years ago, but my man boy Cramer has been so off on his Tesla calls. It's funny, I have the same experience. My dad and I loved watching Mad Money growing up. Like my dad would watch it all the time, and it was entertainment. Like we just loved just shooting the breeze watching Mad Money and how crazy Jim Cramer was. you know, he provides entertainment, man. Like at the end of the day, you know, we can hate on his views and disagree and all that sort of stuff. But you know what he does is it's not easy being in that position, I bet, either. You know, people are going to be like, this is blasphemous. You're throwing empathy towards Cramer. But look, it's true. I mean, it's definitely not easy. Like he's very resilient to be where he is. Yeah. Well, what are the moving averages sitting at? Let's see here. 181 sitting on Tesla. So I said this in my video with the Santa rally video, and I said the risk is our upside moving averages, and we essentially got rejected right off of the 50-day moving average on that day. Or hold on, let me delete this. This is a trend line. We pretty much got rejected close to the 50-day moving average, $10 short of it. But we still haven't even tested it if we're being fair. So at $213 is our 50-day moving average. We got rejected on our 21. So we can't really talk about the 50 yet until we break the 21, which is sitting at 187. But $200 is kind of the mark that I'm looking at, to be fair. And I'll show you why actually on my screen. I'll pull up TradingView. This is why I look at $200 as kind of the marker. Feel free to disagree with me if you want to in the comments, but I'll show you my reasoning why. Let's see here. So kept it very simple. On TradingView, I have the super trend indicator, which essentially shows you buy sell signals based on its algo. It's one of the most popular indicators on TradingView. Don't ask me too much about it, other than it essentially gives you a price point where it'll breach its current signal. And that current breach is 200. And what I've realized is whenever it does break or change signals on the daily, that is, and I'll make sure that this is the daily, right? Yeah, the daily, it almost always retests the 200 day. So when we broke the 200, when we broke into a sell signal in April, retested the 200. When we broke our into a buy signal in July, tested the 200-day moving average. That's why I look at our deviation from the 200-day right now, which, by the way, 200 days, we're talking 260-ish kind of. And the break of this signal would be about 200. So, of course, hard to say, but I'm just saying the 200-day moving average does act like a magnet. Should we break and start getting some tailwind on this? So we'll see. Let's play our Tesla closing price guessing game. Throw in the chat your best guess on Tesla closing price today. Remember, Price is Right rules. You have to be at or under to win the virtual Juju prize. One guess per person, please. Throw it in the chat. All right. Let's see what we got. 180, 85. Let me pull up Weeble again. I think you guys like Weeble a little bit better. Here we go. Kevin says Cramer was the financial equivalent of TikTok before TikTok. It's a good one. I'm not on TikTok anymore, folks. I deleted it months ago. It's not good for productivity. It's not good for your mental sanity. It's not good from a data collection perspective. I can go on. You guys already know how I feel about it. Okay, throw it in the chat. Someone asked about options, so I'm going to pull up options order flow as well. Let's see what we got going on. Thanks for hanging out with me, folks, on a Monday random stream. Hit the subscribe if you're new. Hit the like if you like the stream, and share it with a friend if you care enough to do that. Or become a member of the channel, and you can get an emoji next to your name as well. Okay, so this is the options order flow for Tesla right here. Put it up. So we got some negative action on Tesla, essentially driven by some call selling and put buying in the morning together, and then namely in the last like hour or so, mostly put buying coming on, but nothing major. But we're still net premiums are still negative for Tesla. So it is what it is. Oh, Terrence tagged me into something. Let me pull this up. Oh, I already have it up. Gary Black says Piper Sandler analyst Alex Potter with the buy target at $340 said today if Tesla has to cut Model Y production in China, it won't be because of competition in China, but more likely the combo of deteriorating China macro and the continuing ramp of Giga Berlin, which reduces Shanghai export needs. Interesting. Okay. Can you really rely on Berlin as much as we kind of want at the moment? I don't know. Piper Sandler. So this is the report here. Let me just open this in a new tab so I can zoom into it. Thanks, Gary, for sharing this with us. Today, Bloomberg reported, this is Alex Potter, that Tesla will cut Model Y production by 20% versus November. Tesla denies this, but regardless, China-related anxiety is clearly rising amongst shareholders. If Tesla does eventually decide to cut production, we think macro headwinds and a new factory in Berlin will be to blame, not the competition from Chinese peers. For evidence, see the charts on page 2 to 6. The problem with this, with a shaky macro and ongoing COVID disruptions, is it's possible that Tesla may become victim of its own success. The company could feasibly run out of buyers in the 50,000 plus range just as localized production begins ramping in Europe, thereby reducing demand for exports. Tesla could respond by cutting output in Shanghai, but in our view, the company seems more likely to nudge pricing downwards. I agree. Why mess with a good thing that is production? In an effort to poach demand for models like the Volkswagen Tiguan, the RAV4, and the CR-V. Okay, good note. Let's see what else we got here. So here are some charts that Alex Potter shares with us here. Is the Model Y really threatened by competition in China? Look at his emoji that he has. Look at that little emoji guy that he has. So this is a chart. On the y-axis, you have number of SUVs sold in the last 12 months. On the bottom, you have the ASP. And you'll see the orange dots are fully electric vehicles, and the blues are ICE cars. So you'll see here the fully electric Tesla Model Y is one of the highest priced and highest in unit sales in China. So presumably, if you move to the left on the x-axis and you move to the left, you would increase on the y, right? The 101 demand curve, right? So if you reduce price, you increase demand at that price point. So Tesla could still move up. That's kind of the point here. Let's see here. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see the Neo ES8, for example, is one of the highest prices with lower volume. It's more of a luxury car. And then you really get into some problem areas here where, you aren't selling a lot of these cars like the BYD 1 Plus, but they're costing you less than $25,000. So Tesla's sitting pretty here with the Model Y. It can kind of do what it wants, right? The second chart is annual revenue, another way of visualizing Tesla's dominance. In China, we think Model Y generates $14 billion of revenue, more than any other SUV. And remember, the top one is all other models combined. All other SUVs considered in this analysis are $73 billion a year in revenue. So there you go. And remember, it's the second place is the Neo ES6. ES6. Good report. Thank you for sharing and tagging me in that as well, Terrence. Thank you. What is Alex Potter? Actually, I haven't seen Potter's revenue models. So let's see here. What does he have? What does he have in unlevered free cash flow? So next year he has unlevered free cash flow at 21 billion, 38 the following year, 56, 72, 93. In 2030, he has $184 billion of unlevered free cash flow for Tesla. Nice. I'll take a look at this more later. Bell says, I think Elon could have gotten the same things accomplished at Twitter, but with more finesse. He's making himself a target unnecessarily. Well, I thought about this and I think about this in general, but you got to wonder how much of what he does is to cause people to talk about it, right? If you do stuff quietly, do the same amount of people talk about what you got going on? I don't know. Tony says, Australia and New Zealand combined auto market is 1 million cars per year. Shanghai can snatch a quarter of that on its own. Yeah, I mean, they just entered, the Model Y just entered New Zealand, right? Recently. So untapped there, of course. Let's see. Tesla Shanghai can also export to other Asian countries like Thailand. Yes, Thailand is set to launch in a couple of days, actually. Yeah, exactly, Pop. So I'm not sure how big of a market Thailand is. Anyone know? But yeah. Harry says Tesla is going to home deliver my Model 3 at 6:30 tonight. They're going above and beyond. That's awesome. Congrats, man. Let us know what you think about your general experience. I'm guessing you've already test driven or driven one in the past, but always an exciting day taking delivery on a brand new car, especially a Tesla. How much do you think a supercharger improves nearby commercial property value? Good question. Okay, well, if we're reasoning by analogy, which is not always the best case, but if you look at gas stations, do they affect commercial property values? I'm not heavy in commercial real estate, so I don't necessarily know, but I would guess it would have a slight bump. The supercharger network, though, is unique where, for the most part, you're not going to catch them outside of a 5-minute drive from a highway. So that in and of itself can have deterioration on property value, being so close to a highway. At least I can't think of. Do you guys have any superchargers in your area that are not close to a highway? I feel like the majority are. The vast majority are. But you know what? Tesla had this new program where they were asking for commercial property owners to submit so they can pay for superchargers in their area. So I think it's a net positive. If I am a coffee shop, do I want a supercharger in my parking lot? Yes. Come on. Perfect, right? If I'm a laundromat, do I care? No, right? So I think you can kind of pick and choose there. TDA says demand across the board will suffer until interest rate comes back down. Affordability matters. Indeed. I mean, it's a good thing that Tesla is still early on in its scale, where we talk about Tesla going from anywhere between 1 to 1.5 million cars this year, right? Close to 1.4 or whatever it is. But regardless, we're talking about Tesla there, and we're not talking about having this economic disaster when Tesla's at 10 million cars or 5 or even 5 plus, really, where I think it's a different story in terms of demand at those points. Like, even if Tesla backlog goes down from here, Tesla still has buyers for their cars, and they still have margin on their car, substantial margin. So it's not so much about the growth percentage this year, because I think they can still suffer that. But if they were at 10 or 15 million cars, just as a hypothetical case scenario, and we were facing the economic recession that we probably are going to be facing, I'm not sure if I think at that point you talk about growth and you start seeing where it impacts it, right? Nick says malls, restaurants, grocery stores, Starbucks should all have superchargers. I agree, but I don't see it outside of anywhere close to a highway. But I agree. By the way, we're doing a stream tomorrow. Nicholas, Farzad, and I, and another gentleman. I think his name is Peggy, who has his own YouTube channel. I want to get his name right. Yes, Peggy. We're going to be doing like a Tesla Talks, boys hangout. Everyone's invited, boys and girls, of course, but all of us happen to be boys. Get together and therapy kind of talk of like just the state of where Tesla's at and kind of just shooting the breeze. So we'll be simulcasting that tomorrow at, I should probably know what time it's at. 9 a.m. Pacific. I was getting thrown off by Farzad's 11 Central. So 9 a.m. Pacific, we're going to be doing that. Everyone invited. I'll be simulcasting that on the channel as well. Farzad will be as well. Nicholas will be as well on Investing Against the Grain. Go check them all out. And Peggy, of course. So we got 7 minutes left here till close. Tony said, I can hop on and tell an interesting story about my friend's business missing out on a supercharger. Feel free to. Pinned link is pinned in the comments. You know what I mean. the StreamYard link. We got 6 minutes left here till close, folks. $182. Oh, I didn't guess. Am I allowed to still guess on this closing price? I'm gonna guess 182. If I win it, I'll pass along the virtual GG to someone else. But I feel like I probably should have guessed it. Any thoughts on Elon's CEO compensation package? Elon should have another CEO compensation package, but I don't think he will anytime soon. People argue that he already has so many vested shares and really doesn't matter because he is compensated by Tesla stock in the long term. So I'm not sure if that matters too much, but it's up for debate, I guess. Tony, how's it going, man? Welcome back.
Hey, what's up? I'm back. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how many folks in the audience are like in California, but if you've ever been to California, you're familiar with like the 5 freeway in California?
I'm not, but I have been to California.
Okay, yeah. So the 5 freeway is probably one of the busiest freeways that, it's like the route everyone takes from San Francisco to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And there's just a glut of superchargers that have been popping up there to the point where they've built superchargers that are just in completely undeveloped, like off freeway exits where there's nothing else there, And the last time I went to one of these, it's actually right next to my friend's farm. So on this exit, like the only thing that's ever been on there was my friend's farm and his farm store. And then Tesla built a supercharger on the other side of the freeway from his farm store. And I was talking to his wife, and I found out that like Tesla actually offered to build the supercharger at their farm store like years ago, but they declined because they felt like the lease that Tesla offered was too cheap. It was like $10,000 for 10 years or something like that to build superchargers on like a quarter acre or whatever, 20 stalls. So they built a supercharger on the other side of the freeway where, someone with a cherry orchard literally just carved out a chunk of ground, dozed it, and it's just flat dirt. And then Tesla put in the supercharger stalls, and for months it was just a dirt lot supercharger. There was like no other infrastructure except for some porta potties. And then I went there on Labor Day, and on Labor Day, that was the first time I'd ever been to a supercharger where there were more people waiting to use the supercharger than there were supercharger stalls. It was like a 20-minute wait, and there was like a food truck there, and the property owner starting to build a gas station right next to it, which is like pretty surreal to see, and also just like kind of disgusting too, just seeing how like the dirt's all turned up and there's all these tanks being put in. But it kind of changed the way I think about how, especially in rural areas, superchargers can drive real estate development in some ways. And I think there's like an interesting little bit of value or pocket of value that Tesla might be able to tap into. I don't know, but like when we talk about things like what should Tesla do with its money, should we do buybacks or should we do this or should we do that? Like the main limiting factor for deploying capital seems like engineering talent first and foremost, and then materials. But something like that, like, maybe making strategic purchases in real estate for the purposes of building superchargers and megachargers seems like a way that they could deploy capital that's not limited by either of those things. And there could be like a pretty good return. I'm curious what you think or what anyone else in the audience thinks, and anyone else has thought of this.
But so Tesla is already doing quite well though with their supercharging growth, aren't they? Like, I think they are sinking in as much as they possibly can. I think it's just, and their network is really strong already. I've experienced wait times as well up here in Canada. By the way, I totally know it's the I-5 is what I guess Canadians call it, but yeah, it's probably the same freeway that you're talking about.
Are you like in Seattle or north of Seattle rather? In BC?
I'm in Vancouver. Yeah.
Vancouver. Yeah, it's the same freeway.
Yeah, gotcha. And as I guess unit volumes grow, it's going to be a problem, right? Because people are going to want to supercharge, go on road trips, all this sort of stuff. But I don't know. I think I'm going to have to take a look more into their program that they had, I think last summer, where they released it and they said, calling all commercial property owners, apply here if you want to partner with us with supercharging. Right. And I'm not sure where that got left off. And I'm guessing it already has been substantially grown at this point. But you know what? Like Tesla's just generating so much money that even if they pedaled to the metal harder on that, I just don't think it makes a big enough dent in the cash for that to be a story. Like, I think at this point, it's just like, keep on keeping on. If you're a business owner, if you're a property owner, you're already going to want to, you're already going to want to partner with Tesla. Like, it makes sense. It's like, you know, it's like you can get in early on this program and then you can reap the rewards for decades to come on this platform. And Tesla is going to be opening up, the NACS, right? The new charging system. So it's like, why not let Legacy Auto pay for some of this as well in a way, right? Why not ask them, if you want to open source this with us, you have to contribute to the upkeep of this as well. So
and it's also really interesting to think of like what superchargers will become, because it's in urban spaces once we have robo-taxis. Because superchargers are going to be like robo-taxi hubs. That'll be like designated places where people will get out and swap robo-taxis. And I could also imagine some cities, depending on how dense they are, like passing ordinances where you're only allowed to hail a robo-taxi at a supercharger station or something, you know, just to decrease the congestion from people getting in and out of cars, like in the middle of streets. And that's also something that'll be much easier to enforce with a robot driver than with a human driver, right? So that's also something I could see just adding even more value to a supercharger in the future.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agreed. It's so many different verticals that we can go into, and Tesla buying up land, though, getting in like kind of like the McDonald's type of business model of like, McDonald's doesn't make any money off its fast food. It's really making money off the land it's buying, right? Maybe, but I'm not sure how much of a can of worms that opens up, but
that's true.
Great thoughts. I love it. Thanks, Tony. Friend of the show, Tony, very highly requested. We have closed officially on the stock market today, folks. $182.45, down 6.37%, I guess, better than 7% where we were at a couple minutes ago on the day. I'm going to try to find the winner here if I can. Gurdeep actually guessed 182.35. I don't know how Gurdeep's winning every every stream, it feels like, but so far I think that might be their closest person, unless anyone can find anyone closer. I think Gurdeep might have won this for the third time. Actually, Gurdeep so far. Yeah, well, I'm going to try to highlight his comment here if I can find it. Gurdeep 182.35. And I think that is our winner. I don't think anyone else guessed in the 30s and no one guessed in the 40s. Gurdeep, you have some sort of a psychic ability, my friend. Can you tell us what Tesla stock will be at tomorrow? Just throw it in the chat for us. Just so we can, of course, not financial advice, but, you know, I think we're all begging to know here. Okay, ugly day in the stock market, of course. NASDAQ was down, finished down about, 1.7%, almost 2% on the day. Same with the S&P 500. Remember, Mondays can be misleading, folks, up or down. This could be the start of a down move. This could be just a one-day correction, and we are flat for the rest of the week. We got our China delivery numbers, record-breaking. We got our Reuters FUD report, which is discounted off Tesla PR directly. Who knows what to believe at this point? I guess we have to wait until the quarter four numbers come out, but a lot going on. I appreciate you guys tuning in on another Monday. I can't really say another, but on a Monday live stream with me, despite not having really a lot of heads up. And of course, shout out to Emmet for coming on the channel as well. Go watch that, rewatch that, rewind back if you want. I'll be posting up the replay here shortly. Much love to everyone. Take care. Subscribe on your way out. Thanks for making my day a little bit better. This show is really dedicated to my my late cousin who passed away yesterday at the age of 28 with stage 4 leukemia. It's been a hard little time here, but thanks for sharing some time with me, folks. All right, guys. Much love. Yash signing off. Peace out.